Darkcast Network. Welcome to the dark side of podcasting.
How do you think the world will end? Alien invasion? Nuclear disaster? Another, more deadly pandemic? I'm Jackie Moranti, and I'm the host of Cause of Death, 100 Seconds to Midnight. I talk about the things that could obliterate mankind. I call it pre-apocalyptic nonfiction. The doomsday clock was set at 100 seconds to midnight from January of 2020 to January of 2023. On January 24th, 2023, the Board of Atomic Scientists moved the hands of the clock even closer to midnight. Now, it's set at 90 seconds to midnight, the closest it's ever been. From nuclear disaster to environmental threats to food and water crises, find out how mankind is destroying itself 1 second at a time. If you haven't listened to my podcast, you should.
Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Mountain Murders.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
A very special Veterans Day edition. Happy Veterans Day.
Yes, reach out to the veteran in your life and thank them for their service.
Thank you for all our listeners who have made the sacrifice to join the military and serve our country. We really appreciate you guys.
You know, some people...
Guys and gals, I should say.
Yes, we appreciate y'all. But, you know, some people try to categorize like, oh, you know, were you deployed, blah, this and that, you know, veterans of a certain generation. But I will say what all veterans do, in my opinion, is you put yourself on the line. At any moment, something can happen, and you are signing that dotted line and willing to give it all, the ultimate price, in protection of our country.
And our freedoms, man.
And our freedoms. And I really do I think it's a really big deal. I didn't have the guts to do it, but I appreciate each and every person that does have the guts to take that chance and really step up.
Well, you know, like you said, Dylan, I think all veterans, because whether you are in a combat role or you're in a support role, like all of the positions in the military, all the jobs are vital.
Right.
I mean, you can't support a mission without all these folks working together. So very much appreciate what everybody's done.
Yes, I do as well.
All right, Dylan, are you ready to get into today's case? Of course, we are into the month of November, which means our theme is blood ties, familial crime cases.
Yes, and there's some very interesting dynamics I touched on this briefly a while ago.
You touched on it?
Yeah,
Did you get consent before you touched on it?
Touched by Dylan. But no, there are some very interesting dynamics, like you don't realize you're in the home with the danger. You know, you're behind locked doors, and it's the people closest to you that sometimes are the ones that ultimately betray you. And there's some you were touched on, or when we were talking just now before we started, you touched on another interesting dynamic, and that's oftentimes there's sides. One side might think that the perpetrator did not do it, or is very quick to forgive them because, you know, of personal relationships or feelings toward them. And then you'll have the other side who's...
Yes, this case is quite controversial, Dylan. Folks are kind of divided, especially whether the convicted killer is guilty or innocent. You have a lot of supporters out there who absolutely do not believe the convicted killer committed this crime and that it's a miscarriage of justice, while others, they're like, well, you know, I mean, the evidence seems to point to this person and there's no one else that could really be a suspect.
Yeah, and I think that's very common in these types of cases. And honestly, it's really a hard position or a very hard situation for a family to be thrust into.
It absolutely is, Dylan, and I think our listeners will find this case to be interesting. Are you ready to get into it? We are traveling to Glynn County, which is in southeastern Georgia on the Atlantic coast. This area is a popular vacation destination. There's Jekyll Island, St. Simon's Island, and Sea Island.
I've heard of Jekyll Island.
Yeah, these are all very popular vacation spots. Founded in 1777, Glynn County is one of the 8 original counties in the state of Georgia.
Wow.
Before European colonization, it was inhabited by the Lower Creek Nation. Brunswick is the second largest urban area on the coastline behind Savannah. So a lot of folks will recognize Brunswick, Georgia. It's like the, capital, like the county seat, if you will.
Yeah, and that's what we've been to Savannah many times, and what struck me is the history, and you can really just feel it. Plenty of places have an old building, or maybe some Civil War famous battle happened there or something. But just in almost the entire area of Savannah, especially along the river there, you can just really feel the history.
Absolutely. For whatever reason, my soul is drawn to Savannah.
Right.
I don't know what it is, but the first time I stepped foot in Savannah, there was just something about it. I was like, this place is for me. And it's on my bucket list. One day, Dylan, I am going to live in Savannah.
Okay, well, we can arrange that because I love it as well. And it's you do seem to almost feel calm when you're there in that area. Like it feels natural for you. And maybe in a previous life, you were someone's.
Maybe I was an old sea captain.
Yeah, maybe you are an old sea captain.
As much as I love the ocean, you never know. Maybe I was a mermaid in a previous life, or maybe I was a swamp hag.
Okay, those are some interesting options.
Very fitting. Now, the city is the center of Georgia's shipping industry, which I always find interesting. And as you mentioned, just the historic elements of, the area, the historic parts of it. Shipping is such a huge part of American history.
Oh, it really is. You take, big rivers.
And America's economy. Natural
ports, and these were some of the places that were the very first place that Europeans entered, when they first arrived.
Yep,
yeah,
absolutely. Then you have like Charleston, Savannah. There is some debate about the origins of Brunswick stew. There's kind of an argument. Folks debate whether it was created in Georgia or in Brunswick County, Virginia. But folks who believe it came from Brunswick, Georgia, I mean, they're pretty adamant. No, we invented Brunswick stew.
Oh, and I bet they're pretty staunch defenders of the Brunswick stew being from there.
Yeah,
right?
It's like a vegetable stew. I think it has beef in it. I don't think I've ever actually had Brunswick stew.
Sounds like vegetable soup.
A little bit, yeah. Around 8:15 a.m. on August 29th of 2009, a disturbing 911 call was placed by a woman named Margaret Orlinsky. Orlinsky conveyed that a neighbor had knocked on the front door with a chilling story. The man was hysterical. The neighbor, 22-year-old Guy Hines Jr., told her his entire family was dead.
Oh, my God.
She had seen a car drive up to the trailer about 5 minutes earlier, then saw a guy running from the trailer screaming for help. He kept repeating, "My whole family's dead."
Damn, I mean, you find yourself in a situation like that. I mean, how do you even respond or react? Because I'm sure initially your shock is all you can muster.
In the 911 call, Orlinsky tells the operator that Guy's father, who's known as Guy Sr., was dead. She shared with the 911 operator that there is a dog at the neighbor's residence. She doesn't know if it bites. So she's kind of like a warning ahead of time, like this dog's like a little aggressive. He barks a lot.
So she's given preliminary information to first responders or police who may show up on the scene.
Right. She said, quote, "He says, everybody's dead. I know there's a house full of people who live there."
It's a house full.
Now, according to Guy Jr., He arrived home to find everyone inside the family's trailer dead. At some point, Guy gets on the phone with the 911 operator, and he says, I think they've been beaten to death.
Oh.
Which is horrific.
Well, yeah, multiple victims, blunt force trauma, beat to death. I mean, even one victim, that would cause a horrific scene, right? Because I always think there's some kind of just, I don't know, some evilness behind a blunt force
beating
murder.
Someone to death. I mean, that's so personal.
It takes a lot of energy.
It's very physical.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I cannot, like, when I hear about this kind of horrific death, I always remember that scene in Casino with Joe Pesci and his brother where they take them out to the cornfield.
Yeah.
And just start wailing on them.
Right.
Throw them in a, little shallow grave or whatever. And I know it's a movie, but that scene is very visceral and really, fucked me up the first time I ever saw it.
It's kind of like strangulation. It's it's almost to me a personal matter because you have to have a rage for the victim.
Well, that's the thing. I think it's a very rage-filled crime.
Right. Very seldom do you hear of a stranger being beaten to death by someone.
The 911 operator asks Margaret to wait on the line until emergency services arrive. A few minutes later, the property maintenance manager takes the phone. He says there might be one person alive by the name of Michael Toller. Guy Jr. had gone back inside the trailer and called out to his neighbors that Michael Toller was still alive. Scene integrity is obviously a top priority with a crime scene, and the 911 operators tell them, do not re-enter the trailer.
Right.
Don't touch anything. Don't touch doorknobs. Do not go back inside.
Well, yeah, and this is true for any scene or any place where something's happened. But I think with a crime like this, you're instantly thinking, if you're the operator, maybe a lot of blood evidence, things like that.
Well, yeah, you don't want folks traipsing through the crime scene.
Yeah, you don't want extra bloody footprints or anything like that.
Right. Soon after, law enforcement and paramedics arrive at New Hope Mobile Home Park. Upon entering the home, police determined there were 9 victims.
That is crazy.
Yes, Dylan, that's a lot of people, a lot of bodies.
Yeah, I mean, that is, at one time, I mean, there's very few cases where you hear something like that.
Well, my first thought when I started researching this case is, how do you have 9 people in a trailer?
Okay, so are we talking
single wide?
A single wide.
Yeah, we'll get more in, we'll talk more about the trailer in a minute, but that was just my first thought is, wow, 9 people crammed inside a single wide trailer. That's pretty packed.
Well, yeah, if they all live there, that is definitely packed.
Well, they all do, Dylan. We have 49-year-old Brenda Falligan, 45-year-old Guy Hines Sr., 44-year-old Russell Toller Sr., 22-year-old Chrissy Toller, 20-year-old Russell Toller Jr., 15-year-old Michelle Toller, 30-year-old Joseph West. They're all dead. And then we have Michael Toller, who had Down syndrome, and a 3-year-old victim identified as Byron Jimerson Jr. These 2 were still alive.
Oh, my gosh.
Joseph West was the boyfriend of Chrissy Toller, and this child, Byron Jimerson Jr., is her son. Just to give you a little background there. Now, unfortunately, Michael Toller died the following day at the hospital, leaving 3-year-old Byron as the sole survivor. Guy Hines Sr. was the father of Guy Hines Jr., go figure. He had worked as a truck driver. Guy Sr. moved in with the Toller family when his son was a teenager. Before his death, Sr. had won a lawsuit, a civil lawsuit, in relation to a mobile home that he owned. And I don't have a lot of details about, what exactly this lawsuit was about. But he ended up with a $25,000 settlement, and he was waiting on this to be paid out.
Oh, okay.
Sr. continued living with the family, awaiting that settlement, as I mentioned. Guy Sr. was described as being a very generous fellow. He would help anyone in need. He was no nonsense, early to bed, early to rise type. He lived a very quiet life. He had a little brush with the law back in the 80s, But that was way behind him by 2009.
Yeah. Well,
so just a good, like, solid, hardworking guy.
Having a run-in with the law here or there, some people think it's really kind of speaks on your character, like maybe you're not a good person. But honestly, it can happen to anybody. It's the people that keep on and on. I've been in jail overnight, and I've certainly never really done anything.
I've been in jail for an hour.
I've never done anything harmful to anyone else or violent in any form or fashion. So,
well, I can't say that.
It's not the end of the world.
I'm scrappy.
Oh yeah.
Everybody knows I'm a little trashy, so yeah,
Okay.
I'm a little scrappy. I've had a couple fights.
Okay, you got a couple of rides down to the jail.
Maybe one or two. Yeah, I'm a brawler.
Oh,
Can't help it.
So you are a violent criminal, and I'm not.
Yeah.
Is basically what I was saying.
I'm a violent criminal. We can say that.
Okay.
I mean, I've never been convicted of a crime.
But you got violence in your jacket.
But I've had charges. Okay, you best come back with a warrant.
And I'm a strong believer that if you're not convicted of those charges, I don't think that they should stay in your record.
Well, I'm a firm believer that some people just need their ass whooped, Dylan.
Okay.
Okay? A lot of folks would benefit from having somebody just slap the shit out of them sometimes.
Honestly, in public, it seems like people have forgotten that, and that used to be the way it was.
The internet has made people feel really, like, ballsy, and they say shit they normally wouldn't say in public. And then when they go in public and act that way, a lot of folks don't really engage or kind of like, oh gosh, because there's such a stigma around like a fight. And I admit, fighting's a little trashy for sure. But I think folks forget that somebody might slap the taste out your mouth.
Well, no, it's true. I think people, like you said, get in the habit of talking crazy on the internet. And, there certainly is free speech, but there's not free of consequence speech.
Look, I'm a country girl, and I grew up with my daddy telling me, don't you start nothing, but you finish it, right? And I've never started a fight. But if somebody puts their hands on me, they better hope they get me down on the ground because I'm going to whoop their ass.
No, I saw someone say, speaking of the internet, say the parents that teach their kids to, if someone puts their hands on you to, basically go to their ass, fight, are part of the problem. And I disagree strongly with that.
Well, I think it's human nature. I mean, we're just like very primitive at our base, right? And I think, of course, over the years, as we've become civilized society, we've abandoned those primitive reactions. But I think protecting yourself, and if that ends in a physical altercation because you are protecting yourself, your safety, I think it's just sort of a natural thing, and we've stigmatized it to the point that now people are like afraid to defend themselves.
You see it in the younger they are,
and you'll stand around watching some young man beating up like an elderly person and nobody steps in, or a man beating up a woman in public and you like don't see anybody step in, and I'm like, what the fuck? Because that's not how I was raised.
No.
And I'm not going to stand by and let that happen.
No, it's certainly not. And you should defend yourself when other people are being physical.
Well, there's that.
And I understand being afraid and things like that, because I don't like to be in physical altercations. I'm a bigger guy, it'd be easy for me to throw my...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually...
You're such a hulking man.
I'm glad you brought this up.
So hulking and masculine.
Even though I did. I'm actually really transforming into the unit that I've kind of...
you've been the unit.
I have in spirit, but now I'm actually physically becoming the unit. We will post some pictures on the gram, maybe.
Are you going to flex?
With the right lighting.
With your slutty tank top on? Are you going to flex for our listeners?
With the right lighting, I may flex. Okay.
I think we've just like lost the plot.
No.
At this point.
No, but always defend yourself. Anyway, let's get back to it.
Well, okay. So, yeah, we're talking about, you can get into a little trouble maybe when you're young, but you grow out of it.
It doesn't mean you're a bad person.
Make you a bad person. Now, 10 people lived in this 900 square foot trailer.
900 square feet. So This is a small single wide.
Small single wide.
Maybe 2-bedroom, but too small. I mean, one room's normal and one's tiny. Okay, that's what you got there.
I'm wondering where everyone sleeps.
Likely one bathroom. I mean, this is just a tiny trailer. Trailers are good to have the bathroom in the master, if you will. and then a secondary bathroom. But okay, there's no way that they're comfortable. There's enough room for everyone in this situation.
I grew up in a trailer like this when I was, little, when I was a little kid. And we did have 2 bathrooms, 2 bedrooms, but it was a very small space. Of course, this is when my parents were still married. And eventually, they divorced, and my mom and I stayed there for maybe like a year or so after the divorce. But even with 3 people in the house,
right?
It almost seemed at times like it was a little cramped.
Well, yeah.
You don't really have anywhere. I mean, you have like a kitchen and a living room, and that's about it.
And they're not big.
They're not big.
No rooms in a trailer this size are really big.
No.
I've lived in all kinds.
So we got 10 people living in there, and I just cannot even imagine how cramped this space was. Rusty Toller was considered a simple family man. He liked fishing on the weekends. Apparently, this family, they really loved fishing. Like the girls, the boys, the kids, like everybody enjoyed fishing in this family.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I think fishing can be a good time. And it's honestly, I think it's a really good family activity as well.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up fishing with my family. My dad's family, we spent a lot of time at the lake. I learned how to fly fish. We'd catch bass, crappie.
Well, it's just one of those things.
Brim.
Even a 4-year-old can do it.
Yeah, and it's fun.
Yeah, and everyone can have, you have different levels and different skill levels, and everyone can have a good time.
And then you have like a fish fry or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he worked over 20 years at a plant that was located next door to this trailer park and was considered a model employee at this plant. Now, at the time of our story, the plant was temporarily closed. So he was not employed there, at the time of our story, but he'd been there 20 years and, I had plans to go back when it reopened.
Right.
For whatever reason. Now, people thought of him as hardworking. They said Rusty never really had a bad word to say about anybody. He was one of those, like, if you don't have something nice to say, then just don't say anything at all kind of guys, like live and let live. And I think we can say that Rusty was also a very generous person. I mean, he opened his small home to friends and family who were in need. And I think that speaks volumes about the man, right? I mean, most people are not willing to give up their personal space and privacy like that.
Well, yeah, especially when you have just a little bit or a small space or just a little to share and you do it anyway, I think that says a lot about your character.
Well, I'm just going to make an observation here, and not that wealthy people can't be charitable or generous, but I tend to find that it's the people who don't have a lot are usually the most willing to share it with others.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it, and of course, I've met all types of people. But I tell you what, putting fences up over the years, the people who saved for an extended period of time to spend these thousands of dollars were much quicker. A lot of times, it's not always true. They want to pay you up front. They're there the whole time. And then I've done some, really large projects for people who had tons of money. And here's what it is. And I don't think that people with very affluent people do this on purpose, but they have a different relationship with money. You know what I'm saying?
It's not as important to them,
right?
Or pay
they don't think about it.
Yeah. It's like they
don't think about it. It's not even something they're doing on purpose. They just, like I said, have a different relationship with money. And the people who have save and or maybe don't have a whole lot extra, certainly are quicker to part with their money, if you will.
Well, I just think of my own family and my relatives that I think are very like Christian folks, generous folks, willing to help you, the type that really will give a shirt off of their back to you, are the ones that maybe don't have a lot. But then the relatives I have that, have like a big, nice house, have guest rooms, they're the last ones to offer somebody a place to stay for a couple of days if they need it or whatever. And I just think that's kind of an interesting observation.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's across the board, but.
No.
But here we've got, Rusty. I mean, it sounds like this is a really solid dude, decent dude, right? I mean, he's letting all these people live in his house. Now, Rusty and Guy Sr. had been inseparable since childhood, and although they were not blood brothers, they really considered each other to be brothers. So when Guy Sr. needed a place to stay, Rusty welcomed him with open arms. Like, this is my brother, he's family, he's coming to stay with us.
And so it sounds like he just needs a temporary place to stay while he gets this settlement.
Well, it sounds like he'd maybe been there for a couple of years. And you know how these lawsuits take a minute to meander through court. So, I mean, he had been there for a few years waiting for this all to settle. I don't know exactly how long he had stayed there, but
okay,
it was a minute. 22-year-old Chrissy had a troubled life from an early age. She had been arrested a number of times since dropping out of high school at the age of 16. At the time of her death, Chrissy was on probation for conspiracy to commit armed robbery.
Damn, that's a serious charge.
Yeah, Chrissy's son Byron was born of a previous relationship. The child's father, Byron Sr., had been Chrissy's co-conspirator and was serving a 20-year sentence in the armed robbery case. Rusty's other 3 children were considered very good kids. There's 15-year-old Michelle. She was described as a very happy-go-lucky young woman. She always had a smile on her face, friendly, just a real chill girl. Also residing with the family was Brenda Falligan. That's Rusty's sister. She was wheelchair-bound after suffering a stroke a few years earlier. Brenda had some tragedy in her life. 20 years earlier, her 7-year-old son, Andy, and her stepson, Johnny, were killed in a house fire.
Damn.
Brenda's husband, Glynn, had suffered a stroke, before Brenda, and she cared for him up until the day he died. She stuck by her husband, was his primary caregiver. People say she was, like a really good nurse to him, really cared about him, just did everything she could to help her husband. And then sadly, she had a stroke. After Brenda's stroke, she doesn't have anybody to take care of her, so she lived with another sister, Joanne, for about 5 years, but then Joanne passed away. And by then, Brenda was so dependent on someone else's care that she had no other choice but to move in with her brother, Rusty.
Wow. Damn, that's a
and
lot
his
of
family so that they can help care for her.
That's a lot of tragedy for one person to
It's really sad.
deal with.
Yeah, it is. Joseph West is Chrissy's boyfriend. He was described as a father figure to her son. He did have a criminal record as well, but according to those who knew West, he was a welcomed addition to the family. Like the Tollers accepted him as one of their own. They really liked this guy. He worked sometimes on his family's shrimp boat and would even bring Guy Jr. along when Guy needed to earn a couple extra bucks. This is not to speak badly of the deceased, but it shows that there are some problems within the family. They got their struggles.
Well, I will say, you take a guy who's kind like Rusty, right?
Yes.
You take a guy kind like that giving, even if it's not in a malicious way, it seems like people tend to take advantage in a way.
Sometimes they can.
Of his giving nature, because, gosh, he's helping out a lot of people here. You know what I mean?
Right.
In a very small home. And it's got to be tough, even if in a situation like that, even if everybody is super cool, gets together, beautifully, no problems at all, that's still going to be tough to do, right?
Right. Russell Jr. was described as just being a really good guy, all around good kid. And Michael, of course, he had Down syndrome, but was really kind of a light in the family. Everybody really loved him.
Which is, as far as I can tell, true of every person I've ever seen with Down syndrome.
Just a really pure soul.
They're like a pure soul, and they're just always so happy
and smile, yeah,
and funny, and just such a cut up.
Despite poverty and legal troubles, they did come together as a family and do for each other, which is admirable. You don't always see that.
No, you don't.
There's probably a lot of love in this home, I would imagine. Maybe some issues at times. How could there not be with 10 people under one roof?
Right.
It's crowded. Probably, some arguments here and there. But for the most part, it does seem like they were a really strong family unit. The police enter the trailer. They end up calling dispatch to report what's happening, like updating. This is unlike anything they have seen before. Law enforcement, they've said on the record, this is like the worst crime they've ever witnessed.
I'm sure there's no way around it. That many people killed in that manner, if they were beaten to death. Or
it's
just
not the worst crime in the county's history.
You got people of various ages, right?
They can't even fully report on how many bodies are inside the house.
Because they're unsure.
Yeah, because there's just bodies everywhere. There's blood everywhere. At first, they're like, okay, we think there are 2 or 3 victims in the house, just, updating. But as they move along, inside this trailer, they're just finding more and more people.
Which even at first, when you see 3, maybe 4 victims, you're like, wow, this is crazy, right? But then, it sounds like every room they check, deeper they go into this trailer, the more and more bodies are being found, which is got to be very strange.
Well, naturally, upon arriving at the trailer, law enforcement want to speak to Guy Jr. because he is the only person who lives at this trailer that has been left unharmed. When detectives approach Guy, he's behaving much like you would expect a person who just stumbled upon their murdered family. He was visibly shaken, overwrought with emotion.
Right.
As the neighbor described, hysterical.
Who wouldn't be? I mean, this is a crazy situation.
Since people are still in the early stages, police. It's like I can't read today.
Hey, they're people too.
Well, since police are still in the early stages of investigation, they ask if there were any weapons inside the home. I mean, after all, they don't really know, is this a murder-suicide? Since there are so many victims, they're not really sure what to think when they first walk in the trailer and there's just bodies everywhere.
Right, and I'm sure this is in this area, this is something that doesn't usually happen.
Well, no.
This is, let's be honest, this is abnormal for any area.
It absolutely is. I mean, the only other situation that comes to mind, the Roden family murders in Ohio, which we covered, some years ago.
That I was thinking the very same thing, but even then it was at multiple scenes.
Well, yeah.
Not that was okay, but I mean, they kept discovering more and more people connected to the family. When they would try to reach out to tell them about the one thing, they'd find someone else somewhere else killed, which was very wild.
Guy Jr. explains there were 2 shotguns, a 20 gauge and a 16 gauge inside the trailer. He admits, however, that he removed the 20 gauge from the trailer before police arrived and had placed the gun in the trunk of his car, hiding it from police.
Okay.
His reasoning for removing the shotgun is shady. Guy claimed he had purchased the 20 gauge recently from a friend for $25 and that he knew the gun had been stolen.
Okay, now that doesn't sound good, but that actually could make sense as to why you would, because that's not an above board thing to do, right? And that you made this deal with someone for this gun you think's likely stolen.
Well, right. And a lot of, Guy's supporters point to this and say, look, he was being really upfront and honest, even when he knew, he could get in trouble for this.
Right.
While others are like, well, he's not a dummy and he knows they're going to find it.
Oh, okay.
In the car, probably. They're going to search the car. They're going to search the house. And so they're going to find it anyway.
Now, my next question would be, were the victims shot with a gun?
Well, we're going to get to that, Dylan.
Because, I mean, that right there really is, if not, then obviously then the gun is moot, in my opinion.
Hold on to your little horse there. Your little tiny mini horse.
I'm gripping it with my thighs. Yeah.
Saddle up, partner. Now, he knew police would search the home and was afraid that they would find this stolen gun. When police are given permission to retrieve the gun, they're surprised to find dried blood on the wooden stock. And they found blood on the right side of the gun in and around the trigger.
Oh, God, I'm stupid. A gun could very easily be used as a bludgeoning weapon.
The blood will be determined later to belong to Russell Sr., A fingerprint found in the bloodstain on the shotgun belonged to Guy Jr. While searching the car, police also located a bag of marijuana and a bottle of propoxyphene pills, which had been prescribed to Michael Toller. And this is a generic Darvocet, which is a powerful opioid.
Oh, wow.
Or is an opioid. I don't know if it's powerful, but aren't they all?
No, Darvocet is top of the list as far as opiates go.
Yeah, I don't
They're pretty strong
about it. I mean, I've heard of people getting it for they had their wisdom teeth pulled or something. So I'm imagining it has to be a pretty powerful painkiller.
Right.
So they find this in the car. Michelle Toller's bloody cell phone was also recovered from the vehicle. Another gun was located during a search of the trailer, but the only remnant left of this gun was just the wooden stock. Someone had removed the barrel.
Oh, and they can't find the barrel.
They can't find it.
Oh, interesting.
During this time, Guy Jr. was wearing a polo shirt, khaki shorts worn over a pair of black and silver gym shorts, and a pair of sandals. Now, I was confused about why is he wearing 2 pairs of shorts, but it seems that he wears gym shorts instead of underwear.
Oh.
I've never heard of that before.
Okay, he's letting the boys swing, but still got a little bit of comfort going on.
Okay. Despite having been inside the trailer and touching several of the bodies, he claims, he was feeling for a pulse, checking to see if these people, any of his loved ones, were still alive. He didn't have any blood on his hands. Police did observe he had several scratches on his hands, but they were not bleeding at this time.
So just basically red scratches on his hands.
Yeah.
Like they could be fresh?
Possibly. I mean, it didn't really say, but it does sound like maybe they were suspicious enough for police to, notice. Like he's got quite a few scratches on his hands.
Yeah, and honestly, scratches, no matter how you get them, are something that typically go away very quickly, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple little cat scratches, and they're already, going away. So, and Rufus will scratch me sometimes. I mean, not on purpose, but, and they heal pretty quick.
Right.
Even if they break the skin and you get a little blood, after about 2 days, they're usually gone. You can't even really see them. Now, of course, the clothing will be taken in for forensic testing. The blood on the khaki shorts belonged to Russell Sr. The smears found on the gym shorts were a combination of Russell Sr., Michael, and Chrissy Toller. The sandals were also covered in blood. That blood belonged to Joseph West and Guy Sr.
Now, that's a bit odd that he has smears of blood on the second layer of shorts that he's wearing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a bit strange to me.
It is a bit strange because if you were walking around the scene, I'm just imagining, of course, you're feeling frantic, probably in shock. But if you're just kind of bending down to check pulses,
right,
to see if someone's still alive, I don't think you would end up with bloodstains or blood smears on your underwear.
Basically what he's using for underwear, right? And multiple victims. So I find that a bit odd.
Well, it is odd, Dylan. And, of course, law enforcement finds this to be a bit odd as well. In the bedroom where Russell Sr. was found, police located a document on the nightstand, which also had a blood smear. In the blood, which belonged to Russell Sr., more fingerprints were found, and these were later determined to belong to Guy Jr. A knife was found in the living room of the mobile home. The blood discovered on the knife's tip belonged to Russell Jr. When investigators asked Guy Jr. where he had been at the time of the murders, I'm just going to say, Dylan, he offers up a fascinating alibi.
Okay, what does he say?
Guy Jr. had been out all night, away from home, smoking crack.
Oh. Well, I mean, at first that may shock a lot of people.
Now, I don't know, how many hours you spend smoking crack.
Depends on how much money you got.
But it seems like being gone all night smoking crack, I mean, that's almost like, an event.
Yeah, but just from having, hung out back in the day, and I've heard stories, right? This is not surprising to me at all that you would be gone for the majority of the night.
Well,
right?
I mean,
because you're going to spend it, because here's the thing, you're going back and forth. You may be trying to hustle up some money, right? You get a little bit, or maybe you get, you got the hookup, so you're getting a certain amount, and then you're going around selling it to people, and then you're taking that money, and now you're getting to smoke yours for free, and you're rinse and repeating that process. You see what I'm saying?
You teach me something every day.
Yeah, it's called a double up.
About drug abuse.
Wow. I'm glad to
I feel so innocent. All I know about smoking crack, I just kept thinking, well, maybe he was gone for a long time because he stopped and washed somebody's car for some extra money. Because them old school crackheads, they're not like the meth heads.
No,
the meth heads will steal all your shit, take your lawnmower, take your weed eater, your grill, your lawn chair, whatever's outside, they'll steal it. But crackheads weren't like that. I mean, crackheads would work for money. They would, rake your leaves.
Well, that's because they need money fast and for a long time, and they know that if they do chores for you at a super cheap price, they can keep coming back, right?
I'm pretty sure I had some. I'm just going to mention this. Some years ago, I lived in a neighborhood that was maybe a little questionable. We would say we lived on the good end of the street.
Yeah.
There's kind of the good end of the bad end. But I had taken an air conditioner unit out of my window and had left it on the porch to be taken to the basement. And I'm pretty sure one of my druggy neighbors stole it off my front porch. And it had only been out there for like a few hours. I came home and it was gone.
A few hours?
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Yeah, and it took me a minute to notice it. But then I was like, what the fuck? My air conditioner's gone.
Well, that's shitty.
And it was a really good, like a nice one. I mean, I remember at the time, and this was some years ago, when you could get an air conditioner for relatively cheap. Now even the little ones are expensive as fuck.
Dude, it's crazy. A little one can run you over $200,
yeah,
$250
for one of the tiny ones.
For the little 800 square foot room air conditioner.
Now this was a big one, and it had been like $400.
Oh, so this was a nice air conditioner.
Yeah, because my aunt, and here again, people who don't have a lot are the most generous. My aunt, who, she doesn't really have a lot, has a disabled adult daughter. She bought this air conditioner for me because I did not have any air conditioning in my house. It was so hot in the house. And she felt bad about that and went and bought me this air conditioner on her her Lowe's card.
Oh.
And then let me pay her back over the course of, a couple weeks.
Nice.
Like every time I get paid, I'd give her some money and pay her back for this. But see, again, it's just, people being generous. And then somebody come along and stole my damn air conditioner. And it was one of those nice ones that, like, basically cooled the whole house. Because it wasn't a huge house.
Damn.
I was pissed.
I would be, too. Because just even someone takes something that's of low value, just the principle alone really pisses me off.
Well, here I'm a single mom. I don't have a whole lot of money, At the time, I was going to school and working, waitressing. So I wasn't even, like, I guess having a full, 40-hour work week, if you will. And I was mad as hell.
Well, I don't blame
And when
you.
I called the police to report it, they were like, would you have a VIN number or like a, and a number on it or anything?
A serial number?
Yeah, and I was just like, well, no, I didn't keep that information. Or I didn't write that down. Well, we can't really do anything for you. Sorry. They wouldn't even acted like they didn't want to take a report on it.
Be like, what am I, a 70-year-old retired man?
I've got it documented.
No, that is a really smart thing to do. I've known people that keep all the paperwork and they will record serial numbers and stuff when they buy things.
Shit, I'm not that organized.
No, I would never keep up with all that.
But I knew it was probably one of them crazy folks down the road.
And can we say that crackheads have crackhead strength?
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll carry like a refrigerator around the block for you for like $5.
With like one arm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we are. So his excuse is he was out all night smoking crack, doing the damn thing.
He's doing the Bobby and Whitney. He's out smoking crack. He had not returned back to the trailer until about 8 a.m. Guy Jr. had spent the day before, August 28th, hanging out with his friend Zachary. Guy and Zachary both worked for Zachary's father, building houses. So on the 28th, the pair drove to work together. After working for a few hours, they ate lunch together. I mean, it had been a pretty normal work day, hanging out with your bud, getting some work in.
So here we have Guy Jr. He admits to using drugs and being gone all night. And he also admits to basically being in possession of what he thought was a stolen gun.
Right.
So I guess this is kind of painting a picture for police that maybe the guy isn't the most honest guy in the world.
Maybe guy doesn't make the best decisions.
Right.
I mean, we could say that for sure. I think it was also payday because there was mention that guy had gotten $400 for his weekly pay. And so he had a little extra. And he'd budgeted some out so he could go buy some cocaine.
It's his crack budget.
Right. So later in the day, Guy wants to buy some cocaine. It was around 11:30 p.m. that Guy and his friend went to what has been described as a trap house to buy drugs. Once they had scored some crack, they traveled to Fort Barrington, a historical park in McIntosh County, to smoke. Now, I've read reports that it's a secluded area where some folks camp or keep campers. So there might be this is sort of like a historic park or whatever. but it sounds almost like there's a campground there.
Okay.
Right? Guy wanted to buy more cocaine, so they smoked their crack, and then he wants to go get some more. At around 1:30 a.m., he goes on a second drug run, buying more crack from a friend named Joe. Between 1:30 and 2 o'clock a.m., he's going kind of back and forth and returns to the park by 2. Once he re-enters the park, he smokes the rest of the crack.
That's how it works.
Is it?
Yeah. You go get the crack, you go somewhere and you smoke it, and you may have even been like, I'm only going to do a little bit. And then you're like, oh, I'm going to get some more. And you go back, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I mean, that's just how it goes.
Just chasing that neon rainbow, huh?
Chasing that dragon.
Well, here's my thing. Why wouldn't you just buy up front?
Why wouldn't you buy
why wouldn't you just buy all the crack up front?
Well, because you would smoke it all up in a very short period of time. So doing it this way, he's extending his drug binge.
By like an hour?
Yeah.
Or 30 minutes?
Or maybe more. It depends on how far and hard it is to go get more crack.
It sounded like it only took him about 30 minutes to go get some more.
I mean, look, it's a crackhead. He's not going to make it the most economical decision. Just talking about I'm going to save gas if I go ahead and buy all the crack at once.
This is never going to work for me.
It wouldn't.
Drug abuse, drug addiction is never going to work for me because I need to plan ahead. Like, I need to know what's happening. I need to have a plan for the day, an itinerary. Buying my crack and then smoking it, and then I need to go back out and get more crack. That's not going to work for me. Like, I would just need to have all the crack up front.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's too much running around.
It is.
It's poorly planned.
You're exposing yourself to a chance of getting pulled over. You're going in and out of a known drug area multiple times. I really understand your reasoning, and I agree with you.
2 in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't sound very safe.
No.
I don't know. From phone records, law enforcement can see that Michelle Toller called a friend around 2:16 a.m., leaving a voicemail. About 30 minutes later, another call goes out from Michelle's phone, and that lasts about 36 seconds. Another call is made at 3:48 a.m., but it has been noted as like a misdial or a partial dial.
It's a butt dial.
Possibly. Or maybe they entered some numbers, but not the entire phone number.
Okay.
In an attempt to make a call, maybe. Around 5 a.m., a guy travels to the Best Western Motel to see his 16-year-old brother, Tyler Hines. Guy didn't want to return home after smoking crack because he was, quote, geeked out and did not want his family to see him in that condition. Also, I mean, there's a lot of people living under this roof, and I don't know what the sleeping arrangements are, but I'm sure he didn't want to wake anybody up. If you've got people sleeping in the living room, on the couch, coming in at, 3, 4, 5 in the morning.
Well, yeah, we don't know the exact arrangement, but you have to guess that there's people sleeping in every room of the trailer.
Right, and there's a little toddler. So if you wake the little one up, he's probably just going to be up, and then he wakes everybody up. I mean, that's the nature of having little kids, right?
Right.
Nobody gets to sleep in late. And there's not a lot of privacy. So, of course, if he's sneaking in at this hour, waking people up, they're going to see that he's under the influence.
You been smoking crack?
Well, they're going to know something's up. When Guy arrives at the motel, he knocks on the room door, but Tyler does not answer. Guy goes to the payphone in the lobby to call Tyler. Jonathan Carmichael, a witness, sees him knocking on a motel door, on the room door, about 5:30 a.m. So he is definitely at the motel. We do know that because there is security footage that shows Guy doing these things.
Okay, so there's
like walking down a hallway, knocking on a door, going to the lobby, making a call, going back to the room.
So there's video evidence backing up his story to a degree.
To a degree. I mean, at least this part of his alibi. Another woman named Jessica Pollard also sees Guy between 5:30 and 6 a.m. By 7 a.m., Guy and Tyler have met up and they go out for breakfast. Afterwards, they return to the motel. Guy drops his brother off and then heads back to the New Hope Mobile Home Park, which is a 30-minute drive from the motel. So at 8 a.m., he pulls into the trailer's driveway. Now, one of the details I want to mention is that police initially think the family has been shot in their faces because their faces are so badly damaged.
Okay.
So law enforcement is saying, we have, like victims of gun violence here, that kind of thing. And Guy corrects them like, no, they've been beaten to death.
Okay, that's strange.
So police, when he says this, they're interested. Like, well, then how would you know? Because we're professionals and we think they've been shot in the face.
And we can't exactly tell. Right?
Yeah, it's so bad. When asked about the blood on his clothing, Guy Jr. says he went inside the trailer, found the massacred bodies, and ran out for help. He said he did sit down with his brother Michael, who was still alive, and that's how he got blood on his clothing. But if you remember, it was not only Michael's blood, but there was blood from others.
Now, I will say, in a scene like this, everyone's blood could be all over the place, right? And we don't know if that blood was transferred around the scene by the actual killer. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns. You know what I mean?
Well, there is, but again, I'm wondering how you end up with blood on your underwear.
Of multiple victims.
The underlayer, if you will.
Right. And not on your outer layer.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, if it's just like on your leg or something, or on the short leg, it would be feasible. But the underlayer and then having a clean layer on the top of that, that's really weird. I mean, that's hard to me, it almost sounds like you had the one pair of shorts on and then you put the clean shorts on afterwards, after the blood got on them.
Right. I mean, that's kind of how it sounds to me as well.
I mean, it seems like the
or
only
like
way.
You intentionally were trying to cover it up or clean,
Now,
maybe clean up.
We have to consider what part of the shorts is this blood on, and maybe the gym shorts, which typically are rather long-legged, might be hanging out the bottom of the khaki shorts. So that could be a possibility as well.
It's a very strange look.
Well, hey.
I mean, I'm not sure,
Whatever you got to do for the comfort.
What do I know about fashion?
Of your,
my whole wardrobe
your
is
bits.
Black or gym attire. So what do I know about fashion? Now, if he did go to each family member to check on them, Dylan, that could explain how he knew they had been beaten and not shot, perhaps. But I don't have access to crime scene photos, so I can't really judge how the injuries appeared.
Right.
Tried to find some online, but did not have any success with that. Now, the fact that Guy Jr. has multiple sources of blood on his clothing and shoes is problematic for investigators. The question becomes, did he get blood on his clothing and shoes just from walking around the crime scene?
Right.
The type of blood, that it smears, where it's located.
All that matters.
The police are kind of like, this is a little shady.
Well, yeah, because it's not smears might indicate some kind of a struggle.
Right.
Right.
Like someone's maybe grabbed your clothing.
Yeah. Yes.
Pulled on your shorts, so there's like a blood smear. I mean, yeah. Now, of course, investigators are also going to scrutinize the guy's alibi. On one hand, you could argue that he was being upfront and honest about smoking crack. He didn't lie about that. But on the other hand, folks point to the fact that drug abuse paints him in a poor light. Investigators are wondering if he smoked crack, then flipped out, killed his family.
Right.
Law enforcement is pretty tight-lipped about the investigation initially. They give very few details to the public. They will only say that the victims ranged in age from 40s down to a toddler.
Damn.
Yeah. Really horrible. I mean, it's just such a horrible case. During interrogations, the guy was subjected to several polygraph exams. Like with any polygraph exam, the results are up for dispute. The medical examiner confirmed the victims had been severely beaten. Each victim sustained injuries from a blunt, cylindrical object similar in shape to a gun barrel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I'm thinking a cylindrical object. I mean, that's pretty specific. And, could there be that many objects? I guess you could have like a lead pipe.
Yeah, but I mean, who
in
has
the ballroom with Mr.
In this day and age, who in the hell
Colonel Mustard? I don't know.
has a lead pipe?
Professor Plum.
But,
Well, I know.
But no, I've heard of, strange wound patterns that you might not think of until they, kind of prove what the weapon was, or the object rather, that was used to strike someone with.
Yeah, I remember this very old school Hitchcock episode where a woman had bludgeoned her husband with a frozen leg of lamb and killed him.
Oh, really?
And police were trying to find a murder weapon. They just couldn't figure out what had happened. And then at the end of the episode, she serves the leg of lamb to the police officers or the detectives who come back over to her house.
Nice.
Yeah.
I remember one time that they found a strange honeycomb pattern on this woman's body. And then they realized later that it was actually the oil pan of the car that she'd been run over by.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. Very strange.
I know.
Science and forensic is just fascinating, right?
It really is.
Russell Jr. had also been stabbed. Each of the victims died from the head injuries they had received. And of course, the blood spatter found at the crime scene supported this as well. And from what research says, it was just like a bloodbath. There's blood everywhere. Pools of blood, blood spatter. I mean, just horrific.
And you got all these victims and being struck like that, so it's going to be the blood evidence is going to be hard to figure out. You know what I mean? A lot of times, especially in a bludgeoning death, it tells a story about position over the victim, beside them or behind them, things like that. You have cast off that can be on the ceiling or walls. But in a situation like this, my gosh, it's hard to even, takes time to even figure out whose blood is where, if you will.
Now, another discrepancy in Guy Jr.'s, interview kind of surfaces, or his alibi. Now, at some point, he told police that he'd purchased cocaine from Joseph West, one of the victims, and that the pair had smoked crack and marijuana together the evening before. But toxicology reports showed that West had no drugs in his system at the time of death. But Guy Jr. had cocaine, marijuana, and the proxifene, that opioid, in his system.
Which was Michael Turner's medicine.
Michael Toller.
Michael Toller's medicine.
Yes. On Friday, September 4th, law enforcement arrests Guy Jr., and he's charged with 8 counts of malice murder, 1 count of aggravated assault, 1 count of unlawful possession of a narcotic, and 1 count possession of marijuana. His family and friends absolutely do not believe that Guy Jr. murdered anyone. Like, they are adamant that he would never. He loved his dad, was close with his dad. He loved his Uncle Rusty. He considered the Toller family like his family. The kids, like his cousins. Like, he called them his cousins. Thought of Michael Toller as, a cousin. That's how he referred to him.
So, in their mind, there's no way that he's capable of doing this.
They're like, no. Now, at the funeral held for 7 members of the extended family, Tyler Hines and his grandfather, William Hines, told reporters they cannot believe Guy Jr. is guilty. Tyler said to reporters, quote, "I can say there was drug involvement in the house, and I think somebody ripped somebody off, and somebody needed to get their money back. Maybe somebody in the house double-crossed someone. Now, it could have been my brother who double-crossed somebody, and it could be part of his fault that somebody came in there and did this."
So, from that statement, it would lead me to believe that Guy Jr. isn't the only person that maybe uses drugs.
Right. William Hines said his grandson loved his father, Guy Sr., quote, "He was devastated to find his dad like that, and he couldn't believe they had arrested him and charged him with this, and said the only way he could buy this scenario is if they had some, quote, real proof."
Some concrete evidence.
A
witness or something that just, instead of them just questioning him, he gives them an alibi, and they're basically saying, we don't believe, even though to a degree his alibi has been backed up by video evidence at the hotel, they're basically saying we don't believe the story that you're telling us.
Right. After Guy's mother passed away from a drug overdose, he had grown very close with his father. So why would he want to murder everybody? I mean, that's the real question here. Not only do his supporters say that Guy isn't capable of murder, but they question how one person could kill 8 people.
Well, that I've been thinking the entire time.
They just cannot wrap their heads around it. But if everyone is asleep when the attack starts, it is possible that one person could have killed everybody.
Yeah, to a degree. At least you could be well into it before the victims start realizing what's happening, because you're going to wake up. You don't know what that is. People don't usually, or no one expects to wake up to this type of violence. You always also have to a degree, a shock factor. Like you can't believe what you're seeing.
Well, if you're asleep and someone comes along and just bashes you in the head,
right, you're
going to be incredibly disoriented.
Right.
I mean, for example, when you wake up, you need about 20, 30 minutes to get like fully awake. You still seem like a zombie when you wake up.
Okay.
You walk around like Frankenstein or something.
I do make noises.
If I ask you yeah, you do. If I ask you questions, you just sort of stare at me like it's not quite, like the little gerbil in your head on that little wheel isn't quite going yet.
It's not warmed up.
No. So I'm thinking of someone like you, Dylan. Your little sleepy ass.
An incredible person.
Somebody bashes you in the head with something.
Oh.
You're going to be like really fucking disoriented.
Well, hold on a second. Hold on.
You're not going to. I'm just saying.
No, but given the history of this podcast, our longtime listeners know if you want to harm me, the unit, the last place you want to hit me is in my big ass head. Because you done fucked up, right? Because I'm just going to be like, is that all you got? I mean, you might hurt yourself.
But I'm being serious here. I'm just saying someone who's like already like has trouble waking up, is in deep sleep.
But yeah, you're right.
You bash them in the head. I mean, they're going to be very disoriented. You could possibly hit someone so hard it knocks them out.
And they don't hardly any noise, honestly.
Right.
In a situation like that. But here's another thing, and you kind of touched on it. Now, if he had some issue with, say, his dad or someone else in the trailer, and he was all geeked out on from having been smoking crack or whatever, and maybe my issue over money, or he wants more and they won't give him money or something like that, and he loses his shit and beats that person, okay. Oh my God, look what's happened. I can't believe he did that. It kind of makes sense. But honestly, I'm kind of having trouble with the killing everyone, including the kids, everyone in sight. That's a bit of a stretch, even for someone who may be in a bit of a drug psychosis, if you will, to go that far and kill absolutely everyone in the house. That kind of really doesn't make sense to me.
Right, but I'm not going to say it's impossible.
Well, I'm not saying it's impossible, and I certainly don't know how he acts when he's on drugs. Some people can just be like act a little strange or whatever, and some people get way out there, right? I've seen different levels, personally, of, you know, some people are just like, oh, some you wouldn't even know that they had done something, right?
Well, let's think about this.
Some people just get totally wackadoodle and out of their fucking head.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here because that's what I do. You've got 4 good-sized men in the house.
Right.
And not to say that women couldn't fight back, but you have a 22-year-old and a 15-year-old girl, females, and they are probably not as strong as the men. So if he goes around and takes out the strongest first, the young men and the 2 older men, then these younger women are probably not going to be able to defend themselves.
Right.
And so you take them out. You have a person who's handicapped. Right? You have Brenda, a stroke victim, and then you have Michael with Down syndrome, and the 3-year-old kid. So I just think it is possible that someone could
do it than one person.
Do it one person one person could do this if they did it kind of in a very specific way, maybe.
And I guess you could argue something terrible could have happened, and then in your drug-addled mind or state, you'd be like, I can't have any witnesses.
Right.
I guess that could be the other argument.
Guy's family and friends say he was struggling like everyone else, that he smoked pot and had issues with law enforcement in the past, but that people didn't really consider him to be like a problem or a problem child. He wasn't really known as a troublemaker. He wasn't violent. He didn't have a violent past, a violent history. So he just, was a kind of a guy who had problems, but that didn't make him a murderer.
Right, and that is a bit surprising because honestly, with this degree of violence, this many people, you would almost expect to hear, oh yeah, he was hot-tempered, or he could get really crazy if XYZ happened, or blah, this and that. But to be described as a fairly meek individual, calm and chill, it seems even more strange for you to get that far out there.
It does seem like there's some dysfunction within this family. I mean, we do have drug issues, legal problems, brushes with the law, right?
Well, not to be mean, just that many adults living in that small of a space leads me to believe that at the very least, some people don't have their shit together.
Well, I think that's a pretty fair assessment, Dylan. But it seems that his family and friends are kind of making light of Guy's issues. Like, well, he's got his problems. I mean, yeah, he smokes crack and takes opioids.
It's a pretty big deal.
But, it's almost like they're just trying to gloss over that. Like, it's not really an issue or it's a minor problem.
Right.
And, I see that as, no, that's substance abuse, and drug addiction is a pretty serious issue.
Well, there's certainly different levels to it, but that's like being like, well, he bangs heroin every day, but, he's a good guy. He's a nice guy. Someone doing that has significant problems, obviously.
Investigators theorize that the motive for murder started with an argument over the painkillers. Michael had been prescribed, as I mentioned, that generic version of Darvocet, synthetic opioid. It has been compared to methadone, like in its strength, and we know that a lot of times methadone is used at these clinics to try to wean folks off of heroin.
Right.
I mean, it's a pretty strong narcotic painkiller.
Well, some argue it's more addictive than heroin.
Now, according to this theory, Guy entered the bedroom where Russell Sr. was sleeping. They get into some kind of verbal argument or altercation over these pain pills. Russell Sr. refuses to hand them over to Guy Jr. During the fight, Guy Jr. kills Russell Sr., and when Michael wakes up in the midst of this struggle, he is beaten. Guy Jr. then went to other areas of the home to find more victims sleeping and attacks them. This is police's theory.
And honestly, given all the evidence, if you will, that you've outlined so far, blood on the inner shorts, things like that, and I knew when he was telling them the story, oh, I wasn't here, I was off doing drugs. And then you got the stolen gun, possibly stolen gun in his possession, all this. It doesn't surprise me that this is the police's theory.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say. And on top of that, if not him, who? Who else has any motivation to come in there and do this?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I kind of bring that up at the end of our story. Now, another witness, James Davis Sr., the half-brother of Russell Jr., said that on August 28th, just before dark, Guy Jr. brought him a pair of pliers to the Fort King George Motel, which is located in Darien, because James Davis needed to fix a car.
I need some pliers.
And needed this tool. Guy Jr. was driving a Mercury Cougar that belonged to Russell Jr. Davis said that his half-brother Russell Jr. did not allow anyone to drive the car, and he found it a bit odd that Guy Jr. was driving it. Because he absolutely would not. This was like his prized possession. He would not let anybody drive it. He would not let somebody borrow it. He's like, I'm his half-brother. He would never even let me drive it around. Like, I found it odd that Guy Jr.'s telling me, oh, he loaned it to me.
Right. And you have someone who's maybe known to go off and do drug stuff. That's typically the last person you'll let borrow your car.
Guy Jr. said he had $50 to buy crack. This is what he tells Davis. Davis said, I've got my son right now, so I can't really go with you to find crack. But I do have some marijuana if you want to smoke a joint. They did. Guy Jr. had been driving the Mercury on the morning of the 29th as well, so he had had it all night.
Oh, so here you have a car that is someone's prized car, and not only is he driving it, he's out in it all night.
Yes.
Someone who never lets anyone take their car.
Right.
Okay, and it's to such a degree that he instantly notices this.
Yeah, he thought it was really strange.
Right.
Yeah. It was inside the Mercury Cougar that police found those prescription pain pills and the shotgun. Investigators also theorized that Guy Jr. not only stole the pills, but maybe whatever cash was inside the house. Yet none of the victims were employed at the time, and supporters argue that, there wouldn't really be any money in the house to steal. But the night before the murders, Joseph West was seen at a convenience store purchasing some items. So it does seem maybe somebody had some money in the trailer. I mean, I don't know how much. Guy Jr. had gotten paid on the 28th, as I mentioned, $400. And he was found with like $300-ish, like on his person.
So he still had most of his money left.
He did, which makes sense that he had, maybe spent some of the money on drugs.
Okay, but what I would argue, given that fact, is it doesn't sound like he was in a desperate state, right? He hasn't ripped through all of his money, but still just needs more and more drugs, and then which would motivate him to go back and maybe start some kind of a fight and end up robbing anyone in the house. He still had plenty of his own money in his pocket.
Well, yeah, but maybe he knows like he can't spend it because he's got to pay rent to Russell Sr. or something.
Yeah, but that's just not how it works in an addict's mind, right? Not if he's, I just don't see he's in a desperate state at that situation. I got to mention that because I think it's glaring.
Okay.
And it also points to the fact he's only used a certain amount of crack at that during the night.
Well, right. He said he had $50 to spend, so it sounds like he bought $50, smoked that, and then maybe went back and bought another $50.
Right.
He's got a little, around 300, maybe 315, 320 left.
No, that's not a terribly large amount. This might be hard for people who don't do drugs to understand, but that's not a terribly large amount of drugs that he's done up to that point. So in my mind, it would make less likely that he's in some kind of a drug psychosis.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. Now, a normal person wouldn't start a confrontation over pain pills, as we know. Guy Jr. admitted that he was using a lot of drugs at this time. And if there is one thing I do know about addicts, Dylan, is they will do whatever it takes to get their hands on more drugs. So I'm thinking maybe it's not out of the question that he could do this to his family. Drug addicts, we know, are not the most trustworthy people, and they do a lot of bad things that they might never do otherwise to get drugs. They lie, they steal, they cheat, and sometimes they even murder their loved ones.
Well, it's true, and sometimes they end up going further than they meant to. And this also isn't to say I don't know Guy personally, and so I don't know his personality completely. He could have other issues that we don't know about, right? Personality, I don't want to say, disorder, or, there could be something else at work, not just the drugs. And then if you mix the drugs with that even a little bit, it could amplify those things.
The trial doesn't begin until 2013, so it's like a 4-year wait for the trial to start. Seems like a really long time. Jury selection begins. Juror number 152 made it very clear in court that his daughter had known the Hines family. His daughter had gone to school with Guy Jr., so he wanted to let the court know this, but he was not removed from the jury. Now, I mentioned there had been a document with blood smear found on it. The document had been photographed at the crime scene, but when it was taken in for forensic testing, the document was destroyed.
During the testing?
During the testing.
Okay.
So the defense didn't have an opportunity to examine it and had to take the prosecutor's word, that the test came back to Guy Jr. The defense wants to strike the document from evidence since they didn't have a chance to conduct testing of their own on this document. Several pieces of evidence were removed from the home, like hair, blood, a drain trap from the shower and from the sinks, but they were never tested.
Okay.
Which the defense is pointing out, like, there are these key pieces of evidence that for some reason have not been tested by law enforcement. These could prove my client's innocence.
But then the one piece that they did test was destroyed during testing, because I'm sure they had to liquefy it or something to extract the blood from the paper. And but we can't, the one piece that's conclusive, if you will, we can't test ourselves. But then we have these other pieces of evidence that could also, be damning for Guy Jr. as well, but they've just not been tested.
Well, right. I mean, I'm sure the defense is thinking, like, these could be pieces of evidence that might exonerate our clients. If they tested the drain and found someone else's blood, like someone else had showered or washed their hands or cleaned up, and, it didn't match Guy Jr., then we could have a whole, different suspect or multiple suspects.
Yeah, certainly. If there's a DNA sample, no matter where it came from, of an unknown individual, none of the victims and not Guy Jr., that would certainly be a big deal.
Now, do you remember juror number 152 I just spoke on? He's going to be a bit of a problem, Dylan. A deputy was tasked with, kind of babysitting the jury as they were sequestered for this trial. The deputy will testify that juror 152 made statements that there was no way he could convict Guy Jr. because there was no evidence. And the deputy thought this was an odd thing to say, given that it was still very early in the trial. At this point, they've basically had opening arguments and haven't even really presented any evidence.
Yeah, it's a bit odd way to phrase it.
So the defense will use this statement to call out law enforcement, saying that they basically slapped a case together in a hurry.
But how would the juror know either way?
Well, I know.
I think they're giving a lot of power to that statement.
The defense suggests the investigators had tunnel vision. They went after Guy Jr. with little evidence. They failed to pursue other suspects or other theories. Also, the police were not well equipped to deal with a crime scene of this nature. It could be very overwhelming for any small town police department, but especially, with 8 victims, a lot of blood, a lot of evidence.
Well, yeah, when it comes to processing a scene like this, obviously a lot of experience in your homicide detectives would be helpful, but it's everyone involved, and it's even boils down to equipment, procedure, and all these types of things. If you've never went through something like this and you're doing it for the first time, you may not have have the proper tools to break a scene like this down. You know what I mean? And certainly you don't have any of the experience.
Well, as I mentioned, Dylan, there was a lot of evidence collected and documented, but some of it never made it to the lab. Important pieces of evidence were discarded, never tested. Like, there was a shirt found in the bathroom covered in blood, but it was never tested.
That's crazy.
So some folks say, this could have belonged to the killer, or perhaps Guy Jr. was wearing the shirt when he murdered everybody, got soaked in blood, quickly took a shower and put on these nice clean clothes.
Right.
And only has a little bit of smear on the outside of the shirt and the shorts.
Well, yeah, another reason to...
he could have been wearing the gym shorts.
Right.
And the t-shirt, perhaps.
And didn't think to change the gym shorts because he thought they were they were protected from getting blood on them.
Or that, if I put my shorts over top of them, they're not going to see the blood, or, who knows?
Well, yeah, you should test that. You should test the drain traps because it may have all the victim's blood in it, which would lead you to believe that, hey, the killer took a shower, which you could frame that as even more evidence against Guy. So, yeah, I don't understand.
Or find DNA from some complete stranger.
Right. Well, definitely.
That shows, wait a minute, this was someone totally different.
Well, see, in a case like any case, well, especially one heinous case of this nature, it seems to me like you would want to go down every avenue, test every speck of evidence to make sure that you have the right guy, because not only is there a possibility you're accusing an innocent man, you also want to make sure you got the perpetrator of this horrible crime.
The other issue is that this was a very small trailer, 900 square feet, and there are 10 people living there. But the trailer was described as disorganized, messy, cluttered. There were dirty dishes everywhere, piles of clothing and trash on the floors. Before the murders, the trailer was a disaster. And then after the murders, law enforcement is trying to comb through all of this mess, for lack of a better word, right? Trying to document the crime scene and take photos. So it's hard to know if the scene is a result of the crime or if the house is always in this state of disarray. But it does seem other folks said no, the house was kind of always very, very, very messy and cluttered and dirty.
I just don't see how that could be the case. I don't even see how you have room for clutter with all those people living there.
Well, I have only a photo of the trailer's exterior, but even the exterior of the trailer, you can see like junk kind of piled up on the side of it and maybe under the porch or whatever. And it definitely needs to be pressure washed.
Okay.
There's like green
mold
goo,
mossy.
kind of growing on it. And I mean, you can tell it's an old trailer. You know, it's run down, and I'm not making judgments.
Well, I'm not either. I'm bad to let shit set in my yard.
Well, there's that. And I mean, much to my dismay. But also, you know, not everybody has the money to rent a pressure washer, or, you know, some people just, that's not a priority.
Right.
And, you know, when you're poor, you're poor. And maybe you do live in a rundown, you know, place. It's got stuff all, I mean, I'm not judging them.
No, and that doesn't mean anything negative, honestly. Well, for one, it's your home. You get to live in it the way you want to. I've always found it, you know, some people have this kind of idea of exactly what a home should be like, and they think everyone else should be that same way, which I don't agree with, right? Everybody has their own preferences, you know?
Right.
Some people want an immaculate house. Some people don't care if it's a little cluttered or something like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. Lived in. Yeah, we fluctuate. Sometimes our house is fairly organized and straight, and then you could come by a week later and it looks like a bombs went off because we just don't want to do anything.
Wonder why.
Well, I don't know.
Wonder who leaves all that stuff laying around.
Well, it's not me. I mean, I can go ahead and put that.
Well, no, I mean, I'm someone, my preference is to live in a very clean, organized home. That's how I grew up. That's what I'm accustomed to. Bleach. My parents bleached everything. My daddy bleaches the sink every time he washes the dishes. I mean, you know, extra clean. And I do keep our home clean. I mean, as far as dusting, mopping, it's clean. I clean it like every other day.
Oh, you do a great job.
The bathroom, you know, it's going to be clean. But yeah, there's stuff, and it's lived in. I mean, I think that's, you know, most people, when you go to their home, it doesn't look like a museum. They're going to have some dog toys in the floor and maybe some kid stuff and
right.
Yeah, some shoes here or there, a jacket across the back of the chair, you know. I mean, I think that's just normal. But it sounds like this was
a little more beyond normal.
Yeah. I mean,
what most people would consider normal.
Dirty dishes everywhere, piles of clothes, trash in the floor.
Well, and I would say to that, this man's opened his home up to multiple adults, and I think they should be pitching in.
Well, I was going to say, you got all these people in the house. Why the hell ain't somebody cleaning this house?
Right.
The least you could do for the man is clean his home.
Well, I agree.
When all y'all piled up in there.
Especially if nobody's working.
Yeah. The crime scene was brutal. Russell Sr.'s bed was just covered, like soaked in blood. You know, the wall behind the bed, blood spatter everywhere. Looked like a scene from Dexter. It was obvious that he had been attacked while asleep. Pillows soaked through. Just bad. He had tried to defend himself. So there were some drips where Russell, it seems like he'd maybe tried to get up out of the bed and then sort of died, maybe partially out of the bed.
Okay.
Like he'd maybe fallen to the floor or was just in the floor at that point. The defense speculates how many people it would take to pull off this kind of crime. There were multiple weapons. obviously a gun barrel, maybe 2 gun barrels, the stock of one of the guns, a knife had been used. They speculated, there could have been another weapon, like perhaps some kind of metal pipe or something. Maybe that we don't have all of the weapons used.
So basically their theory is it took multiple people and it's not their client.
Right. Based on Michelle's outgoing phone calls, I guess, there were 5 or 6 of these that kind of happened throughout the early morning hours. There was one around a 3-hour window, kind of when the murders they speculate happened. There might have been like this kind of 3-hour window. And that is the window in which Guy says he was driving around, buying drugs, smoking crack. But we know this is not exactly like an airtight alibi.
Right.
Because we don't have people saying he was here, he was there. We just have his word.
And then evidence of where he was later in the morning.
Right. So it does seem that there was this kind of 3-hour window where no witnesses saw him. And there's, prosecution and police are speculating that this was the time he went home, that perhaps that partial dial phone call could have been Michelle maybe trying to call somebody or call for help, or that some number was entered in the struggle. Because I also find it very weird that he had her phone in his car.
Covered with
her
blood
bloody
on
phone in the car.
Well, yeah, why would you touch that?
Why would you take that?
Right. Unless you used it to call the authorities.
But he didn't.
Right.
So this 3-hour window could have been when he committed the murders. He could have had time to take a shower, clean up, change, go to breakfast, come back,
and
feign surprise.
That night, he was driving the Cougar as well?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Because when he went over to the motel to help that guy, that was like 11-ish, I think, 11:30, and he was driving it then.
11:30 at night.
Yeah.
Okay.
The previous night, which would have been the 28th, he had it.
Okay.
And then, of course, he's driving it into the next day, the 29th.
Interesting.
Like I said, based on her outgoing calls, they can kind of find this little timeline, and they have this little window which they consider the window of opportunity. And Guy's alibi, as I mentioned, not airtight. Like, he can say he was doing those things, but we don't really have any proof that that's what he was doing. The prosecution suggests that Guy Jr. had tried to get the pills from Michael Toller, or try to take the pills, and that some kind of argument broke out. He ended up having this altercation with Russell Sr., then possibly Joseph or Russell Jr., the 2 young men who would have been the biggest threats to him. Guy Sr. was also found dead in a bed, so he had been surprise attacked while asleep.
Okay.
This theory is not the best, but people have been murdered for far less. I mean, the pills, it's questionable.
Well, it's true. I mean, we've heard some of the most ridiculous reasons: jealousy, thrill, just for the thrill of it. We've heard the craziest things over the years here at Mountain Murders, and I'm sure our listeners have as well.
I mean, he could have been trying to get the pills so he could go sell them for more money to buy more drugs. I mean, I don't know.
It's possible, but again, I would point to the fact that he still had a pocket full of money. So that's a bit odd, but when people do insane things like this and you try to look at it from you're a reasonable person, a fairly normal person, sometimes you just can't figure it out, right? It just doesn't make sense because you would never react that way and you'd never do that type of thing.
Right.
So it's just never going to make sense.
No. People now are so PC, and the term crazy is offensive to some people. But I had a person tell me, many years ago, and it has stuck with me, that you can't rationalize crazy.
Right.
And I think when somebody's in this kind of frenzied state and they're murdering somebody, they're a little crazy, right? I mean, that's not normal. It's very abnormal. It's crazy in a frenzy, raging out on people. So like you said, I mean, you can't rationalize that.
No.
So here's my theory. I think this makes far more sense. I wonder if Guy Jr. knew about his father's settlement, because a bigger motive for me would be everyone dies and then he's the one left to inherit that $25,000 settlement from his father's estate.
Oh, I mean, I'd forgotten about the settlement. That's a big chunk to someone like Guy Jr. $25,000 may seem like a really big windfall. But gosh, I mean, that's the willingness to kill all these people to gain that.
Well, let's think about this. If he just killed his father, that could be suspicious. Like, why is Guy Sr. being murdered? Well, maybe it's because he wants this money.
Right.
But if you murder everyone in the house and make it look like some crazy wild maniac just came in and slaughtered everybody, Leatherface came in with a gun barrel and not a chainsaw.
Right.
Then it would maybe be in his brain, well, it'd be harder for police to see the real motive that I'm trying to get this money from my daddy.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard of crazier.
And can I just tell you why I find this to be a better theory?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there was a witness that came to trial that recalled in the summer of 2009, like before the murders happened. I don't know the time period, like if it was just before the murders, but it was sometime, leading up to the murders, that Guy Jr. had expressed frustrations with his family and that he told this coworker about a dispute he'd had with his father over money, that his father was planning to give money to other family members. Guy Jr. was pissed off about this and said, quote, "Man, my daddy ain't never done nothing for me and my brother. Man, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill them all."
Damn. So allegedly, this is basically a conversation about the settlement money.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me.
And his disdain that his father may help other people.
Yeah, like maybe give Rusty some money.
Right.
And maybe he's going to give some to Brenda or Rusty's kid. Yeah, and that he was pissed off about it.
Interesting.
So in my brain, that makes more sense. For me, that's a better motive or better theory than it was over these pills.
Well, it's like the Rodin family, entire multiple generations of a family wiped out over custody, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you would never imagine that someone would go that far and think it would work, I mean, it's just really crazy. Now you got me saying crazy like 100 times. But some people just come up with the dumbest.
Well, it's so irrational.
Plans.
And yeah. But see, in their brain, this is why we have dumb criminals, and this is how they get caught and they end up in prison, because they're dumb and their plans are dumb. But maybe in his criminal mind, he thought, if I kill all of them, it's going to take away from the fact that, I'm after this money. He's not going to be able to give the money to anybody. If he's got some kind of will, he's not going to be able to divide the money up.
Right.
Or whatever, and it'll come to me, and then I can take care of me and my brother. I mean, that makes more sense to me than the drug angle. But anyway, so let's go back to Juror 152. Now, he's already violated the rules. Jurors are not supposed to talk about the case, even with other jurors while they're sitting on the trial. I think they have to wait till deliberations before they can discuss it.
I'm not sure if a judge can order them to, maybe discuss a certain thing or something like that. But yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Well, I mean, the deputy came forward and said he's in here talking about, this is the beginning of the trial. He's in here saying all this. It sounds like he was maybe engaging with the deputy saying, well, I'm not going to find him guilty.
Well, just that statement alone is not okay, right? Because it shows a bias of sorts.
Right. So early on, he's formed an opinion without the trial concluding, before evidence is presented. Now, finally, this is all brought before the judge, and there's a push to have the juror removed. The judge questions him, but ultimately allows this juror to stay on. So, moving along here, he's told this coworker, I'm going to kill them all. He also told the coworker that there had been another fight with Russell Jr. over that Mercury Cougar car. I guess he wanted to borrow it. Russell wouldn't let him. Russell never lets him borrow the car. He thinks Russell's an asshole. Fuck Russell. Fuck this Cougar,
But then he's out riding around in it
yeah.
now I get to ride around in it.
Guy Jr. made other comments about he was going to beat Chrissy Toller if she didn't hook him up with her girlfriend.
Well, look, I mean, you have a lot of people saying he's a pretty chill dude. You know, he might have some issues, but this sounds like pretty strong language. It sounds to me like, and hey, we've all, to a degree, said things, maybe not these exact things, but something like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying I'm always gonna kill you.
Now, I've never,
but I'm not.
well, I've never been to one to say that those exact words, but some people
I
just
say things like I'm gonna wring your neck.
Yeah, it's just a habit. They say that, and they obviously don't mean it. I guess they're speaking, maybe, is it metaphorically?
Right.
Or, yeah, but it does seem like maybe he's not as gentle and meek a person as some of the people are trying to make him out to be.
Right. And I mean, it could just be, you know, he's being dramatic, blowing off steam. You know, a lot of folks, you know, I'll tell you, like, if I catch you eating a popsicle in the bed again, I'm going to kill you, but that I'm not really going to kill you. You know, I'm just speaking abstractly, right?
Yeah.
But this witness said at the time he did not interpret these statements as just, you know, Guy Jr.'s mad and just fussing, that he actually felt like Guy meant it when he said, I'm going to kill them all. That it sounded like he was making a threat, or like he was really pissed off and saying, like, I'm going to kill them all.
Well, I mean, you can take I think their eyes, you can see it in someone's eyes if they maybe truly mean something, or if their way, body language, and all that matters. Even some things you don't realize your brain's picking up on, some tells, if you will. But yeah, I mean, if something gives you that feeling, maybe there's more to it. You know what I mean? Maybe they're not just speaking abstractly.
Look at my eyes, Dylan.
Yeah.
You can't have a popsicle in the bed.
There's no...
What kind of bullshit is that?
I can
you see my eye? You see how serious this good eye is?
Well, look, I can lay down and eat a popsicle. That doesn't mean I'm going to make anything, dare I say, sticky.
It's a rule in this house.
No.
Yeah.
And Rufus wants a lick of that popsicle.
No.
Who am I to deny him a small pleasure like that?
He does not. No.
Just a lick, not a bite. We lick it together.
You're wrong. I want folks to weigh in on this. Tell Dylan that he should not let our dog have a lick of his popsicle.
I mean, you look in that cute little face and you tell him no.
I tell him no all the damn time.
Me and him sneak snacks.
Like, you're not getting my food, bud. No matter how cute he is and pitiful.
He likes to eat the corner of the chip. Sometimes, just a little bit.
Can't be doing that. I don't have the money to clone him. We want him to live a long time.
Okay.
Now, law enforcement had tried to prove Guy's alibi. They had interviewed multiple people, even folks who were camping at the park at the time, where he allegedly smoked crack. And one of the men had been camping right at the entrance and said he did not hear see anyone come in the park at this time that he was allegedly there.
Okay.
And he had a really good view of the entrance. I guess there's a parking lot, and that he didn't see a single soul there, didn't hear anybody coming in. And it sounds like this guy, you know, maybe was a light sleeper. Like, he kind of knew people coming and going.
Okay. So there's no one there that can back up his story.
Right. And the people he supposedly saw and bought drugs from and all that either weren't willing to cooperate or back up his alibi, but it sounds like police were unable to find anyone to support this alibi. So
nothing besides the visit to the hotel later in the morning.
Being at the car, or helping the guy with the car around 11:30 at night. So from that time until 5:36 in the morning, you know, he's got a big period of time.
So, okay. So if their theory is
But it does sound like he was smoking crack with his friend. So at some point he was with the friend for a few hours. So that's why I think they had this 3-hour window that they could not account for.
Yeah, but if that's true, if you take, let's just say what they think is completely true, that he's done something. Now he has this mercury. That means that the murders actually happened well before the window, they think, because he had the mercury at 11:30 at night and went and helped a friend.
Right.
So he already had the car. So what do you say to that?
And I don't really know, like, the autopsies, like, what time, like, they determined, the time of death to be. I don't have that information. I try to find it.
But, I mean, I would like to think, given all the blood evidence at the scene, that if the murder indeed happened, say, 3 or 4 hours before they think the window is, that you would maybe be able to tell.
Well, I'm wondering if maybe he took the car without permission and then came home.
And that's what started a fight.
That could have started the fight.
Okay. Interesting.
Like, that could have been the issue. And then maybe fighting over the pills as well. It could have been a double whammy. Like, I want the pills. And then Russell's like, would you take my car?
And that would have more. Now, was there Russell Sr. and Jr.?
Yes. So it's Junior's car.
It's Junior's car, but that could.
And it sounds like Russell Sr. kept Michael's medications.
Well, I'm saying that could bring more than just the one person into the argument.
Yeah.
Now you could have dad and son pissed at you. It's his house. It could be a pretty big deal for him to be mad at you. It could have caused a big ruckus.
Neighbors also reported, so we have several, I guess, witnesses, neighbors, who reported that family dog would bark if a stranger approached the trailer. Apparently this dog was like kind of vicious, would bark, would go a little nuts, growling, snarling, posturing.
Well, yeah, even the neighbor was warning.
I don't know if he bites, but
first
I think
responders
he might. Yeah.
that there's a dog there. You need to know this.
Yeah. So it sounds like this dog might have been kind of, scary dog, vicious dog, a very protective dog. And neighbors reported that they did not hear, because they said if a stranger approached, this dog would just go nuts, right? And loud and barking and like wake everybody in the neighborhood up, barking and carrying on. And that this dog, no one heard a single bark from this dog all night long.
Okay.
Or all in the early morning hours. And when law enforcement arrived at the scene, the neighbors actually had to restrain the dog. Like, multiple people had to restrain the dog to keep it from attacking police.
Okay.
Like 3 or 4 people had to hold the dog back. So neighbors are like, we never heard a single word or, word from this dog, bark from this dog. So that makes the neighbors think that it had to be someone who knew the family, who was familiar, that the dog knew, approaching the house or that had entered the home.
Well, and I think that's a reasonable
And the dog,
position.
the only people that the dog didn't do that are the people who lived there.
Right.
Right? Yeah. So like I said, no one heard the dogs barking. So they don't think, the neighbors are like, I don't think a stranger entered that house. During trial, the polygraph examiner testified that Guy Jr. had failed the test, showing deception and lying. But I will say that polygraph examiner also had his own kind of legal troubles and was kind of considered maybe not the best person to rely on.
Oh, really?
So, the defense and his supporters point to this fact, and they're like, this guy, I think his name was Kenneth Blackstone, that he had his own troubles and was not very trustworthy and had issues. And so, maybe you couldn't believe this polygraph.
Well, see, that's the whole thing is a layperson looks at a readout from one of these tests. They don't have a clue what they're looking at, right? But it's still, even you can have 5 examiners look at the readout, and they could all have 5 different conclusions, and not just lie or truth, but during different parts, because they really try to dial it in. Oh, on this one question they showed deception, but not on this question. Blah, this and that, and you can have 5 of them look, and 5 of them have a different write a different report, and that's the whole problem with polygraphs.
Right. After closing arguments, the jury began deliberations. When the jury took a vote, it was 9-3. 9 people thought Guy Jr. was guilty, while 3 did not. Now, at some point, Juror 152 sends a note to the court letting them know that his daughter is in the courtroom and is sitting with Guy's brother, Tyler.
Okay.
Which shows that obviously this juror and his daughter have a pretty tight relationship with his family.
Well, yeah, that's a pretty strong connection if your daughter's in a direct relationship with his brother.
The other jurors at this point are questioning Juror 152's motives because he's plainly stated he has no intention of finding Guy Jr. guilty. It definitely seemed like there was some kind of relationship between the man's daughter and the Hines family. Now the jurors know that his daughter's sitting with Tyler Hines. So even the jurors are like, yeah, we don't want this guy. We don't trust this guy. There ends up being an argument between Juror 152 and the jury foreman. And all of this gets back to the judge. The judge can see that this one juror is a problem and that he probably should have been removed earlier. The judge wants to dismiss the jury from the juror, this juror from the jury.
Yeah, they should have alternates.
Well, they do.
Who've been listening to the same evidence.
They do, but in order to do that, both sides, the prosecution and defense, must agree to it.
Oh.
So, of course, the defense is like, no, we want that guy. He's on our side, right? No, we're keeping that juror. But the prosecution ends up making a deal with them. They will remove the death penalty or throw that out if we can get rid of this juror, we'll take the death penalty off the table.
Okay, so wow, that's a pretty good concession for the defense, even before any type of a plea or sentencing has come up. So I guess that's a bit of a win.
Well, it is finally agreed. They get rid of Juror 152. They have an alternate juror who listened to the entire trial. That person's brought in. They end up voting. The defense is feeling pretty good about their case at this point. There's the prosecution did not prove Guy Jr.'s guilt. There's not enough physical evidence. We're clear. He's getting off.
Were they aware that it was a 9-3 vote the first time?
Well, no.
They didn't know that.
Well, no. This is as the jurors are deliberating and we get rid of the one juror, the defense says up until the jury comes out and makes their announcement or reads the verdict, that they were feeling good. They really truly thought our client is getting off.
Well, because all you need is one.
There's no
right?
There is no way they're gonna send this guy to prison. We just really don't think there's enough evidence. So the jury's basically they get the alternate juror back there, and right at that moment they're not deliberating anymore. They're like, you come in, let's vote. We're not having any discussions. Let's make a decision right here. And when they voted, everyone found him guilty.
Oh. Interesting.
In the end, Guy Jr. was found guilty on the 8 counts of malice murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now, he appealed the decision, but was denied a new trial by the Georgia Supreme Court. Again, there are supporters out there who truly believe he is innocent. Many believe that he was denied due process or a fair trial, that he was not given enough time to mount a defense, even though it took 4 years to take him to trial. That there were these issues with the evidence being, untested,
right,
discarded.
Now, I find it when they brought the alternate in, I think, and I know they were probably ready to just be done with it. And it sounds to me like 152 was a big presence in the jury room.
Maybe swaying the other two.
And maybe kind of influencing the other two no votes. But I think they should have had some discussion with the alternate behind closed doors. I think that would have been maybe a bit more proper. Because from the alternate's perspective, here you're coming into this.
Well, I don't know if the alternate was just I'm ready.
Maybe they were on board with it.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
The details behind that.
Yeah, that's true. They may be like, hey, I already feel strongly the same way you guys do, so let's go with it.
So I'll let our listeners decide what they think. I mean, at the end of the day, no other fingerprints or DNA was found on the bodies or in the home. So for me, the preponderance of evidence points to Guy Jr. being the killer. You got to think about who had access to the home. There was no sign of forced entry into the house.
Neighbors didn't see a strange car and strange people in the middle of the night.
So it doesn't sound like there was a commotion, like someone busting up in the house. The door wasn't kicked in. It was someone who was very familiar with the home, had access to the home.
And I must say, having lived in trailer parks, you tend to know what your neighbors are doing.
Oh, yeah.
And given the construction
they're kind of right on top. You know, the trailers are usually kind of right on top
they're
of each
close
other.
to each other usually, given the construction of a trailer.
Sometimes you only have, about maybe 12 feet or so between the trailers, just a little patch of grass.
Right. So you might not know exactly what's going on. Sometimes you do know what's going on inside. You can hear.
Yeah, sometimes you definitely know.
And but you certainly know what's going on outside of your around the trailer, typically, even if it wakes you up and you were asleep or whatever. So that matters too. I think that the lack of seeing a strange car, hearing, because if you have people,
well, it doesn't sound like anybody in the house had beef with anybody else. Like,
right,
it would be one thing if you could say, well, Chrissy and Joseph had been feuding with somebody
or stole something from
there
someone.
Was some issue. We found all these social media messages where somebody was making a threat or whatever, and you just don't have that. I mean, almost all of these people were just described as like laid back, low key, not folks who had issues with anybody.
Right.
And even if the investigation did have its flaws, which I think it did, it just makes the most sense to me that Guy Jr. is the prime suspect and likely was involved or committed all of the murders himself.
Occam's razor, right? The simplest, most obvious reason is likely the reason.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that because there really isn't any evidence to the contrary. And though the evidence may not have been perfect against him, I think some components of the evidence were damning in a way.
Well, for me, I mean, just why did you have this 15-year-old girl's bloody cell phone in your car? Why was that something that you grabbed and put in the car, like hid with a gun in the car? And with pills.
Why are the pills in the car? Right?
Why are you driving?
Why are you in this car who's known a person who's known to not let anyone drive their prized car? Right?
Why were you smoking crack?
Well, I mean, why can't we find anyone else that can corroborate your timeline before you go to the hotel?
Right.
So, it's pretty straightforward. The blood smears on your inner pair of shorts. I find that hard to explain.
Well, the witness is saying you were specifically pissed off that your dad was getting some money and that you thought it was unfair, or you didn't like that he was maybe going to help others out.
And maybe he was going to help other people there in the trailer.
Right.
Which made you resent them as well, because given everyone, was maybe struggling with employment or something like that, he could have sat around, bullshitting and talking. And when people have money coming like that, especially people who don't have a whole lot, you tend to do the little dream sessions where you sit around and talk about what you would do if you had a little bit of money. So, it wouldn't surprise me if those conversations went on there in the trailer. Like, oh, if I get that money, I'll help you with this and I'll help you, I care for you guys. And maybe that could have created the resentment towards others there in the home as well.
Right.
A building anger that I'm pissed off at all of y'all.
Could have been.
It could have been.
It's a really interesting case, like I said, and, there are folks who are kind of split down the middle, guilty, not guilty. Most of my research today came from news articles, the court documents in the case, since it was a fairly recent case, 2009. Of course, there's a lot of available newspaper articles and that kind of thing out there. Anyway, just for me, when I first discovered this case, my mind was blown. Just the sheer number of victims.
Right.
You've got one suspect.
Yeah, it's a wild.
Did this one person? I mean, there's a lot of questions. Probably more questions than answers. It's quite a mysterious case.
It is. And, but at first I was like, gosh, how in the world could one person? But when you broke it down to there's only so many able-bodied males, and then, you have kids involved and a disabled woman, or I guess you could maybe say 2 disabled people, it really makes more sense. Like if I lash out at the able-bodied men first, then the rest of it gets a lot easier to accomplish.
Right, and I'm not sure the sleeping arrangements. It sounds like Guy Sr. was in a bedroom, and so was Russell Sr., but then some reports almost made it sound like maybe Michael slept in his dad's room or had like a bed in there or something, perhaps.
Okay. Who knows what?
So I'm not really sure what the sleeping arrangements are, but it is possible, because usually in the trailer, bedrooms are like on opposite ends.
Almost always.
So if you attack someone at one end of the trailer, even if it's a small trailer, it's possible that you could attack somebody on that end of the trailer and the folks sleeping in the other bedroom don't hear it.
Or on the other end of the other side. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And
Yeah,
there could have been a TV or a radio. I mean, I listen to white noise. I always think that. I'm like, damn, if somebody broke in, I probably wouldn't even hear it because I've got like a thunderstorm playing in my ear all night long,
Right.
Well, anyway, thanks for tuning in today, and we will be back with a midweek. We haven't had a midweek crime recap in a minute, so we're going to come back with one of those. Got a lot to talk about, Dylan.
I can't wait. I can't wait, and I'm going to lock Heather in a room, and she's going to pound out the 3rd installment of the West Memphis 3.
Well, I've got it in the works, Dylan. It's been a little bit of a crazy week. Had a couple of days I wasn't like feeling so great. Been battling like this little sinusy thing.
I understand.
Won't go away.
But much like many of our patrons, I cannot wait for the 3rd installment.
I know people are champing at the bit. We're going to get that out.
I cannot wait. Thank you for saying that phrase correctly.
I guarantee.
Champing at the bit is the correct way to state that.
Like I'm the Cajun chef.
All right. So until next time, stay groovy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love disco. Stay groovy.
All right.
Okay. Bye, Dylan.
Bye.